Welcome to the celebration for the 75th birthday of City Hall. Everyone look around. Does this place not look great? I don't know about all of you, but I don't think City Hall looks a day past 50. I'm Ellen Belzer, representing the General Services Department, which is sponsoring this event, and we would also like to thank our colleagues from the City Communications Department. To kick off this gala festivity, it is my pleasure to introduce the Mayor of Kansas City, Missouri, who will talk with you about the history and also to rededicate City Hall for the next 75 years. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Mayor of Kansas City, Mayor Sly James.
I'm always a little uncomfortable being described as A, the mayor, and B, a great mayor when I'm standing here and I'm looking at Dick Berkeley and Kay Barnes, and it's like, you know, those were great mayors. They're great mayors. It's my privilege and honor to be mayor of this city during this celebration of 75 years of this building. You know, it was approved in 1931 by a 4-to-1 margin, and the voters passed a 10-year plan that built City Hall, this City Hall. I'm dreaming of the day when all of our votes for 10-year plans and building things passed by 4-to-1 margins. The citizens invested in this city then, as they have continued to do since then. The mayor then asked for a design that would be utilitarian, and so this building, one of the first city halls to be built as an office skyscraper type model, rose from the ground. It required 6,300 tons of steel, enough concrete to fill 400 freight cars, and enough lumber to fill 20 more. So think about the scope of that, and think about the fact that at the time this building cost a whopping $6 million. I'm not sure you could build a small office for 2 floors for $6 million in this day and age. And yet this building has endured for 75 years. It cost so much, as a matter of fact, that the 2 seahorses that flanked the front entrance were nicknamed by city employees. One was named Lugs and the other was named Cuts. They were nicknamed in the 30s for the lugs of the political machine and for the cuts that city employees took during the Depression. They've always had a great sense of humor around here. This city was born out of pride and innovation. It's a tribute to the citizens that paid for its construction and continue to pay for its operation. It shows the character and craftsmanship of thousands who found work during hard times to build it. It embodies a quiet confidence and a stateliness that has never been forsaken. It has stood through good times and bad, and it remains standing, continuing to pay dividends to this city and to the wise investment in 1931 that led to its building. The greatness of a city depends not alone upon great boundaries or multitudes of inhabitants, but upon the probity and industry of its citizens. That inscription is on this building in the lobby here. We've grown a great deal in 75 years, and we've changed and we've learned and we've done things together. One of the things that we've learned is that the spirit that built this building still lives in Kansas City, and we see it every day. We see it when we come together to deal with tragedies like we had this past weekend. We see it when we come together to provide the funds that we need in order to keep this city strong, like we did in August when the citizens passed the tax levy and agreed to allow us to sell bonds of $500 million to deal with sewer and wastewater problems. We see it whenever we look at Kansas City and have visitors from outside who tell us that we have the most friendly people in the entire country right here. Some of those friendly people, some of those great people work in this building each and every day. The employees of the city of Kansas City, Missouri are our first citizens in a lot of ways. They embody the spirit that built the building, they embody the spirit that permeates the city, and they do their job often in thankless times with very little thanks and pats on the back, but they do them well each and every day. And if nothing else, this building is a tribute to the people who've worked in it for 75 years and who continue to work into it today. So happy birthday to City Hall. You've served us well for 75 years. We look forward to 75 more, although I doubt that I'll be mayor then. And thanks to all the city employees and people who work for this city each and every day for what you do, not just 75 years ago, but each and every day. Thank you all very much. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right.
Our next speaker, who also offices on the 29th floor, is the city's chief administrator, who is responsible for making city government run effectively and economically. It is my great pleasure to introduce City Manager Extraordinaire, Troy Schulte.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Let me ditto and echo what the mayor said about the tremendous asset. When Kansas City spends money, it spends money well. That 10-year plan that was passed in the 1930s built City Hall, built police headquarters, built municipal auditorium, paved Brush Creek, did a number of improvements around the city that we are still enjoying even as of this day. It's also been a post for the city. When this building was opened in 1937, one of every 4 city employees was housed in this building. In 2012, 1 in every 4 city employees is still housed in this building. So we have become very efficient. In the 1980s and early 1990s, the city saved all of its interest earnings on its general fund reserves to air condition this building. It took us about 10 years to save up the interest to air condition City Hall. The windows used to open, and the common accoutrement on all the buildings around the building on the floors was the paperweights. And you can still find some of the decorative City Hall paperweights around the building today. So it's got a tremendous legacy. It has grown and revitalized. We can remember not too long ago when computers became commonplace in City Hall, and every floor was allotted 1 computer. It has changed. It has adapted with time. There used to be elevator operators. There was no such thing as telecommunications, voice over internet protocol, and a 1937 building is adapting to the 21st century just fine. So on behalf of city staff, it is a great opportunity. I remember the first time I was a city employee back in the late 1990s, I walked in the south entrance and I was staggered by the rotunda. And I said, having worked in a small town, this was my first experience of what big, majestic municipal edifices can look like, and it sets the standard for what this city hopes to achieve. So this building is a reflection of Kansas City. It stood the test of time. To my knowledge, it's the only city hall in the country that's ever had a Norman Rockwell painting prominently displayed in it. And it is truly a national treasure. We're fortunate to have it here, and we're going to call it home at least for a few years, probably another 75 to 100 years. It's going to be our home. So thank you very much, and let's have some cake.
We're going to have cake, but before we get to cake and before we get to Eric, first I'd like to introduce the current City Council, Jermaine Reed, Cindy Serco, Mayor Pro Tem, Ed Ford, John Sharp, Jim Glover, Melba Curls, Scott Wagner are all here. But we also have some former City Council members out in the audience, and I can't see them all. So would you please wave, hold your hands up so that we can identify you there. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you for everything that you've done.
Our final speaker for this morning is the head of the General Services Architecture Division, also known as the City Architect's Office. Please welcome City Architect Eric Bosch.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, City Manager, for those great comments, and welcome everyone for the 75th birthday party for City Hall. I would like to acknowledge three groups that have made an impact or will make an impact in this city. First, it's the original architects for City Hall, Thomas and William Wright. These two brothers profoundly influenced the skyline of Kansas City. They were both born in Nova Scotia in the 1870s and 1880s, trained in architecture in New York City, and then Thomas was first to open up his architectural firm in 1904 in Kansas City, and the reason he came here was he thought that Kansas City was architecturally undeveloped. So both brothers set out to create an architectural legacy in Kansas City. William soon joined later, and the firm of Wright and Wright was formed. Now we're sitting in City Hall right now, the Citizen City Hall, and they had designed other buildings within the neighborhood. Jackson County Courthouse, across the street the police headquarters facility, and the Perwink Hotel down the street. But they designed some of Kansas City's most wonderful architectural statements. The St. Paul's Episcopal Church, Kansas City Life Insurance Building, the North Wall at Liberty Memorial, and the Nelson Atkins Museum, and many others. I'd also like to thank civic leaders before us, council members, mayors, and city managers. We are very fortunate that the leaders of the city did not move in the direction of many cities back in the 70s and 80s and cave under pressure to replace a city hall that we call the Citizens Palace on the Hill. They put modern things in these new buildings, like air conditioning. They had self-service elevators. Not only has City Hall taken the test of time, but it's moved in a positive direction over the last 75 years to make improvements as we go along. The last group I'd like to thank is the visionaries among us. In this gathering, we honored individuals who will shape and form our landscape for future generations. Buildings like City Hall have a significant future in the landscaping of architecture in our city. We have inherited a legacy, and that legacy we carry responsibility to protect. We are all judged by the footprints we leave behind and the courses we chart. So let's all join together and continue to maintain our palace on the hill. Thank you.
Thank you to all of our speakers. Although that concludes the speaking portion of our program, that does not mean that the party is over. We invite you to stay with us and enjoy some cake and punch. We're starting to serve right there toward the finance area. Also, please peruse the beautiful art and the artifacts from city halls of years past. So I also want to acknowledge the beautiful music that you will continue to hear from Will Matthews, who is the lead guitarist for Count Basie Orchestra.